While enjoying some cheesy romance movie, Lupin receives a phone call. Fujiko has been kidnapped and her kidnapper demands he steal the crown of Iraran as indicated by the photo sent. Flying out, the gang realise they don't really have any intel other than its location. Heading out to the museum, they find it atop a fountain. Said fountain is actually filled with acid, as the tour guide details. The gang invade the museum at night. Lupin arms himself with a hose filled with a potent alkali to neutralise the acid. Zenigata catches them in the act and Lupin explains this to him. He then fires the hose at Zenigata and the gang escape. At least until they get outside and are greeted with floodlights. Greeted being the operative word, as Lupin is praised for stealing the crown. Fujiko steps forward, having never been kidnapped, and the Prime Minister explains this was all a test. Lupin is introduced to Gianna, Iraran's princess, and Zenigata is taken away for trying to arrest Lupin. The Prime Minister wants Lupin to marry Gianna, and Fujiko tries to push it as Iraran is an oil nation. The Prime Minister explains that Gianna has a terminal illness, but she's a fan of Lupin, so this would make her happy. Lupin meets with Gianna and tells her he'll accept. She tells him she knows he's humouring her, but makes a request to make it snow, as she's never seen it before. Lupin's first attempt is rather pitiful, just using shredded paper. His second attempt fails when the projector he's using starts playing in reverse, and then explodes. It happens. Fujiko steps forth with a file on a military group called Spider. Their leader, Eve Tamping, is developing a snow cannon to use on his enemies, suggesting the gang steal it. They head out to Tamping's base in Mount Kilimanjaro to check things out. Time is running out for Gianna, so the gang spring into action. Tamping learns of the gang's attack and launches a missile strike at them. They ditch the jeep and let it crash into the base's entrance, firing their way through. Jigen splits off to secure a vehicle and Lupin and Goemon continue forward. Lupin finds the snow cannon and contacts Jigen. Their escape is interrupted by Tamping surrounding Lupin. Goemon takes Tamping hostage, demonstrating on a foolhardy soldier what he'll do to Tamping if they attack Lupin. Successful in airlifting it out, the gang set up the snow cannon in Iraran. It works, and Lupin heads to Gianna to tell her. Unfortunately, she's already passed on, but Fujiko calls to Lupin saying she was happy to see the snow. Lupin flies out to London to do some thinking. Jigen catches a news report on Iraran. Their oil reserves ran dry, but they plan to use a snow cannon to have the country as a snowy desert and drive up tourism. Oh, and Gianna's alive, and Fujiko's claiming ownership of the snow cannon in all this. While probably not a callback or anything, I was kind of amused at Goemon torching a soldier, seeing how a lot of the early Series 1 episodes tended to have someone get set on fire. Entertaining episodes. Certainly shows that the gang really do outclass a lot of people, considering how easy it was for them to steal both the crown and the snow cannon. Also a fairly smart idea on Fujiko and the Prime Minister's part. Tamping can hardly lay claim to developing the cannon, seeing what he was planning to use it for. Plus it was top secret anyway, so he wasn't exactly advertising it beforehand. Fujiko was enjoying a chess game with the wealthy Lady Black. They make a wager based on Fujiko's claim that Lupin is immortal, that if Lady Black can't kill him, then Fujiko gets her entire collection. The gang are contacted with the job, but nobody's buying it. Goemon leaves in anger, but Lupin tosses him a medallion before he goes. Jigen still comes along completely of his own free will, however. Lupin arrives at a movie set where he's greeted by a butler. Lupin's led through a door and locked inside. Turns out he was led into a truck. Jigen then wakes up and calmly talks with Lupin about his grievances at being led into another of Fujiko's traps. Lady Black then contacts them, telling them of the bet and challenging them to escape. Their first obstacle is a giant ball that's able to go upstairs. They arrive in an open room and Lady Black explains that the ball, which she dubs a murder billiard, detects heat and explodes upon contact. Fujiko notes that Lady Black seems a bit too into killing Lupin and asks why. She doesn't get an answer, but Lady Black flashes back to Lupin spending time with her mother and son. Lupin ends up running into a wall with the ball following. Jigen tries to pull him out of the rubble, but he needn't have bothered, as this is a giant billiard table and thus has corner pockets. As they continue on, Lupin starts to get the feeling he's been in this place before. They stop for a moment and Jigen asks how he knows Lady Black. Before he can get a direct answer, the hallway starts flooding. On top of that, they also spot the ceiling lowering. There are holes in it, but the reason for this is that it's a giant whack-a-mole game. With Jigen as bait, Lupin wires his way on top of the mallet and smashes the electronics. Thanks to the mallet going haywire, they now have an opening to a potential exit. Lady Black is knocked back as her own computer shorts out at Lupin's antics. She calls for her mother in delirium and it's revealed that she's actually the son. The motive was jealousy towards Lupin and the mother, later tangling with Lupin as Lady Black, thus leading to the whole killing game. With nothing to lose, Lady Black activates the self-destruct and orders Fujiko into the maze. Fujiko blows up the computer in response and warns Lupin of the self-destruct. There are still more traps to worry about, but Lupin finally recognises the layout as being that of the Great Pyramid, or a replica of it anyway. He leads Jigen to an exit, but it's a dead end. They also have poison gas to worry about. Lupin gives up hope and calls for Goemon, which by sheer luck works and they escape. As they watch the pyramid go up, Fujiko explains Lady Black to Lupin. He then reveals that the medallion he gave Goemon had a tracker inside, angering Fujiko as it meant he didn't believe her. The gang move on with Zenigata and Fujiko giving chase. It feels like there could have been previous stories told about Lupin going up against Lady Black. Plus the motive to kill Lupin felt a bit underdeveloped. Still, Lupin using his wits to deal with the maze's traps gave some good entertainment at least. We open on Fujiko playing a sonata for the rest of the gang. They're attacked by assassins, so they take them out quietly in order to not interrupt Fujiko's piano playing. Lupin suspects they were sent by the mafia boss Largo, as they've been hitting his establishments a lot recently. As they head back to Fujiko, Lupin has an onset of toothache. As the others worry it'll interfere with their next heists, Largo watches. He gets an idea from a newspaper article on the Yankees heading to their stadium. The Yankees have won their latest game but notice the manager and coach are missing. Largo's holding them up and disguises as the manager as the team arrive in the locker room. He offers them a celebratory beer, but it turns out to be spiked. The gang successfully evades Zenigata with the diamond they've targeted. Lupin's toothache sets in again and they're attacked with a steel ball. More than one in fact. Hoping to evade this, the gang escape to a bus, that just so happens to be owned by the police. Zenigata laughs at Lupin's carelessness, but Lupin's toothache sees another attack. The attackers surround the bus and pelt it with more balls. Fujiko realises that it seems to happen when Lupin rubs his cheek. The engine gets damaged, so the gang escape by walking the bus to a building and hiding inside. Zenigata tries firing back, but the attackers are protected by a bulletproof sheet. Worse still, he dropped the diamond. Thanks to this and Lupin's own pain, Zenigata develops his own toothache and asks Lupin to punch him out to dull the pain. Lupin then takes Santetsuken, intending to face his attackers head-on. The pain sets in again and this leads to him getting pelted, but he blocked the balls with Santetsuken. He was able to take photos of the attackers, whom Jigen recognises as Yankee players. With this in mind, they check things out at the stadium and Lupin takes a painkiller to prepare. Inspecting the locker room for clues, the gang are confronted by Largo. He explains that the beer contained a mind-controlling potion that allows him to command them until 10 PM. He also gives them a clue to the diamond's location being in a diamond, before setting the Yankees on them again. Lupin accidentally runs toward the field and realises what Largo meant. Jigen and Goemon fend off the Yankees, and Fujiko is kidnapped as Lupin heads to the field. Digging results in no diamond, but he eventually finds it under a base plate. Largo arrives with the Yankees, forcing Lupin into a game of keep away. Tiring Lupin out, he then has them attack head on. Lupin deals with them by pulling up the field. Largo then shows Fujiko is set to be electrocuted, telling Lupin to put his hand to his cheek to save her. Just as he does so, a man calls time out and the Yankees return to the benches. It was a disguised Jigen, who took the role of referee in order to override authority on Largo as the manager. Fujiko, now free, fires the balls at Largo to fend him off, and the gang race for the exit upon taking the diamond back, as the toothache is still an issue. Zenigata's waiting, but Goemon takes care of him. He then takes Zenigata's cuffs, and the gang cart Lupin to the dentist. Kinda funny that Lupin's the one with toothache in this episode. A lot of future stories have Jigen be the one who has to deal with it, likely due to him running into that problem back in episode 1 of this series. Largo was a fun antagonist here, and the gang dodging and dealing with a crazed sports team made for some good entertainment. Not the last time the gang will be dealing with a hypnotized sports team either. We return to Broadway, as evidenced by a brief cameo from Buckingham. Zenigata puts up a wanted poster for Lupin, but the only one interested is a biker with a strange laugh. He charges Lupin in a pool hall, but is beaten down and forced to reveal his motive. In response, Lupin puts up a wanted poster for Zenigata. That night, Lupin learns of a diamond that was stolen in his name. Fujiko doesn't know anything about it, and neither do Jigen or Goemon. As a result, Lupin decides to check things out himself at the theatre. He finds the guards drugged with sleeping pills and an old lady drilling at the safe. He notes how amateur she is, having to disable the security himself. There's a second safe door too, linked to external security. Lupin falls through upon disabling it, and the old lady greets him. The old lady is a journalist who wants Lupin to commit crimes so she can write about them. Lupin isn't so sure, not liking his name being used against his will, but gets convinced when she tries to jump off a bridge. The rest of the gang are less than enthusiastic, especially considering they're stealing from a clothesline. As they drive, they're suddenly followed. The biker from earlier is waiting for them and has the old lady hostage. The gang are forced to surrender their weapons for her safety, but this was all a ploy. Tied up in a freezer unit, the gang listen as the old lady writes up her article. She explains that the biker, Benson, is her son. She then turns on some sprinklers and encases everyone in ice. The gang smash free of the ice and use the edge on an icicle to cut their ropes. Lupin then fashions a lockpick from another icicle and breaks out. The old lady hands the gang their weapons and even provides a means of escape, figuring it'll make for a good article. Lupin also calls on Benson before they leave. The gang run out of fuel, realising this was also part of her article, and hide as Benson arrives. Jigen distracts the bikers by blasting the bike he and the others were using. The gang move in to attack Benson and his bikers, but the old lady stops them. Her article isn't interesting enough, so she wants them to put some flair into it. Zenigata arrives, but the old lady knocks him out so he doesn't interrupt things. The gang finally finish off Benson's gang and the old lady is satisfied. Benson himself charges Lupin, however. He's knocked off, but his bike heads straight for the old lady. Lupin saves her, but the article goes up in smoke. Oddly meta episode if I had to describe it, though I suppose you could attribute that to the other Broadway episodes too, to a degree. An old lady dictating how the exciting action scene playing out is certainly a strange thing for Lupin to abide by at any rate. We also get a reminder that you shouldn't mess with the elderly, given how she manages to outwit the gang in a few incidents and get a hold of their weapons. Next time, a revolution for jigging, a tale of modern art, a frame-up involving Zantetsuken and a cult in the Himalayas takes us to episode 132. Until then,